My husband and I built a new house to live with my parents. Construction went smoothly and it was finally complete. But on the day it was finished, my husband brought his parents. I initially thought they were here to celebrate, but it seemed that wasn't the case. "This is where we'll live." "Send your parents away, okay?"
"Wow, what a beautiful house. I'm looking forward to our new life here." "Sorry for the sudden change, but my parents will be living here. We can't live with your parents, so please ask them to leave."
Suddenly, my husband's parents declared they'd live in our new house. Even my husband sided with them. I decided to get back at my inconsiderate husband and his parents. I started by making a call to someone. I'm Madeline, a 27-year-old office worker. I'm married, but don't have kids. Life with my husband, Wesley, has been smooth. Recently, with some financial comfort, I began thinking about my aging parents. After much thought, I decided I wanted to live with them and shared this with Wesley. Wesley surprisingly agreed.
"It's a good idea. Your parents will be happy, and it's a way to show gratitude."
Surprisingly, he seemed to be positive about the ideas and gave me various advice.
"If we're going to live together, our current house might be too small. How about building a new one? We might need more space if we have kids. What do you think?"
Wesley was right. Our current house wasn't spacious. Considering future kids, a bigger house seemed better, so I agreed. Little did I know this house would lead to such a problem. We started planning immediately. We discussed the best house for elderly parents, its proximity to the station, and its size. "Which plot of land do you prefer?" "I think this one's more spacious." "How about this house design? It's barrier-free for our parents, and the many windows will make it bright." I discussed various things like this.
Wesley suggested, "This plot is bigger, but it's too far from the station. We should consider convenience. Having many windows is great for brightness and openness, but it might be risky during earthquakes. Maybe fewer windows would be better."
He gives very accurate opinions. With Wesley's input, and after consulting online and with real estate agents, we prepared to build. It took longer than expected, but we're finally ready.
"Yes, it was a long process, researching and consulting, but now we just have to wait for it to be finished."
We occasionally visited the construction site, but mostly we waited patiently. Finally, the house was done. I excitedly emailed my parents. "The new house is ready. Let's decide on a moving date." Then Wesley arrived. But he wasn't alone. He brought his parents. I thought he had come for a housewarming party, and I greeted him and his parents-in-law, wondering, why did Wesley bring his parents when we weren't even in this house? But what they said was unexpected. "This is the new house you built? It's quite nice. From now on, we'll live here. Your parents can't. If they come, send them away. This is our new home."
"Is this the new place? It's beautiful. Thanks for preparing this for us. We're proud of our son. We're counting on you. Show us the rooms. Who has the keys?"
He said things like that and proceeded to talk on his own. I was confused. This house was for my parents and us. Wesley had agreed. I thought he'd convince his parents, but he said,
"Sorry, but as Mom said, my parents will live here, so we can't live with your parents. If they stay, it won't work. To be honest, they're in the way."
I couldn't believe even Wesley, whom I trusted, would say something like that to me. I was so shocked. I couldn't find the words to respond. Then, without asking, they just moved into the new house, started unpacking, and began setting up as if they lived there. Such a reckless attitude. And Wesley didn't even try to stop them. Seeing this, I decided to get a divorce. Later, I confronted him. This house was built for my parents, not for your parents, Wesley. Why are you suddenly saying this? This isn't what we agreed on. But all Wesley did was snort in amusement. Despite my repeated requests for them to leave, they seemed annoyed and even tried to kick me out. I didn't want to live with his parents either, so I left. I kept asking them to either buy the house or leave, but they ignored me. To make matters worse, even after our divorce, they expected me to pay the mortgage. I was furious at both his ridiculous parents and Wesley for going along with them. I immediately called a law firm and hired a lawyer who specializes in divorce disputes. A few days later, I brought the lawyer with me to draft a divorce agreement. Wesley agreed to the divorce itself, but he absolutely refused to leave the house. Even when I suggested he pay the mortgage and stay, he wouldn't agree. Their absurd demand was that they continue living in the house, but I, the one divorcing, would pay the mortgage. Even the lawyer couldn't help but smirk at their audacity. However, when the lawyer told them, "If you continue to live here without permission, the owner, which is her, can sue you," they seemed to reconsider. The divorce agreement included a clause about handing over the house. Following the lawyer's advice, I set a deadline. Hand over the house to me by this date. If you don't, either buy the house or leave, no matter the reason. Though they were submissive in front of the lawyer, as we parted, Wesley and his family gave me a spiteful smirk. I wondered why they were smirking, even after signing the divorce agreement, but it soon became clear. They had no intention of leaving. They seemed to think that as long as they lived there, no one could force them out. Despite my repeated warnings, they just claimed they were preparing to leave. In the end, I couldn't reclaim the house by the promised date. On the day, I gave them one last warning. Wesley, his mother, and father just laughed at me. "A divorce agreement is just a piece of paper. We've lived here until today and faced no issues. Relying on a lawyer, it's like you can't do anything on your own. I feel relieved to be divorcing such a useless woman." "You don't understand your place as a daughter-in-law. You should serve Wesley. This house is for Wesley, and by extension, his family. Know your place." I could only sigh. Why did I marry someone like this? But regretting it now wouldn't change anything. Fine. Since you won't respect that piece of paper, I'll sue. If you won't listen to me or the lawyer, I'll let the court handle it. When they heard the word lawsuit, Wesley and his family seemed taken aback. But perhaps because they had lived comfortably, even after being warned by a lawyer, they seemed to underestimate the situation. However, their laughter faded when I explained that even if it's not a crime that leads to arrests, I can still sue them. They started to gauge my seriousness. When I called my lawyer right then and there, Wesley suddenly raised his voice in anger. Ignoring him, I told my lawyer, "Hello? Yes. They don't seem to have any intention of leaving or buying the house. I've decided to proceed with the lawsuit as planned." Sensing my determination, Wesley and his family suddenly changed their tune, crying and begging. "We're old and can't work anymore. Please, let us stay here. It's hard for us to live with these aging bodies. We don't have much time left. Please reconsider out of respect for the elderly." "If we leave, we'll have nowhere to go. Are you really going to do this to us? Just let us stay a bit longer. Or do you not care about old people who don't have much money?
If you kick us out, we'll end up homeless and starve on the streets. Please, think of it as charity. If we leave, my parents will have nowhere to live. I can't provide a good life for them with my income. Just say okay, and everything will be resolved. Please? They tried to use their living situation as leverage. Their true intentions were clear. They thought I wouldn't be able to refuse. But I did. After all, they started living there without my permission and then demanded money. It was too much. I explained my stance with a cold demeanor. How many times do I have to say it? I'm the one paying for this house, and it's in my name. We only put in my name because you had just changed jobs and couldn't get approved for the loan. This house is entirely mine. I even set a deadline in the divorce agreement to give you a choice. But you did nothing. I've warned you over and over. You ignored me, and now you're trying to guilt trip me when faced with a lawsuit? It's ridiculous. They were silent, unable to respond. When I arranged for a moving company to send all their belongings to their original home, they glared at me with hatred. You're like a devil for doing this to old people like us. If we starve to death, we'll curse you forever. Remember that. How can you do this? Don't you have any compassion? What about my parents? It's all your fault. We told you. It's hard for us to work or even live daily. You heartless person. We'll never forget this. They left with those parting words. I kept a straight face, but inside, I was smiling. I thought I could finally have peaceful days, but they started harassing me again. They seemed to hold a grudge, so they began causing trouble at my house. I had anticipated this and installed security cameras. I planned to make them compensate for any damages, but even with photographic evidence and bills, they didn't pay. Tired of warning them, I decided to consult the police. With evidence from the security cameras and photos of the damaged items, the police promised to increase patrols. The police have started to mark people and warn them, perhaps because it's easier to move when there's evidence. Perhaps the police's attention scared them, as the harassment stopped. Finally, I regained my peaceful life. I later learned that they moved to a cheaper area and lived in an old, affordable apartment. They seemed to live beyond their means, and always struggled financially, unable to save. Therefore, they cannot save money. Wesley, frustrated with the situation, reportedly said, I'm the one working, and they're wasting money. Who do they think is earning? They need to think before spending. I can't take care of them anymore, and left them. After some time, his parents came to visit. Do you have a moment? We're sorry for the sudden visit. Can you take care of us? We're old and can't work. Our son left us. You're our only hope. Please take care of us. We'll have nowhere to live if you don't help. We'll end up homeless. We can't do much at our age. Please, can we stay here? We'll do housework or anything we can, they pleaded. Their selfishness was so extreme that I was more astonished than angry. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. Don't come here again. If you do, I'll involve the police. With that, they left quickly. From what they said, they didn't know where Wesley had gone. I wanted to cut ties and forget about it all, but reality didn't let me. This time, Wesley came to me. No matter how many times I refused or ignored him, he kept coming, asking to get back together. Look, I'm sorry about before. Turns out my dad had racked up a lot of debt, and we had to sell our original house. We had nowhere to live, and after paying off the debt, we had almost no savings left. I thought we could stay at your place. After leaving the house, we lived in a cheap apartment, but my parents kept spending. So we couldn't save money, and life became tough. That's why I left. Can't you give me another chance? I promise I won't act like that again, please.
Hearing this, I finally understood why his parents had come to my new house and why they couldn't return to their family home. But hearing all this, I felt nothing but indifference. That's it? If you're done, then leave. No matter the reason, I won't reconsider. Just remember that. Goodbye. I tried to close the door, but he seemed persistent.
I'll apologize as many times as it takes. I won't give up until you forgive me. I'll prove myself.
It seems like he won't give up until I forgive him. True to his word, he seemed determined. Every time I went out, I'd likely run into him. He'd call and email almost daily. He had become a full-blown stalker. He'd even confront me in public, making scenes like, "I'm truly sorry. I've reflected on my actions. What can I do for you to forgive me? I promise I won't do it again," making it seem like a one-sided marital spat. Because of this, even strangers would tell me, "He's apologizing so much. Why didn't you forgive your husband?" His persistence became unbearable, so I consulted the police again. Given our history, they acted quickly. Perhaps the threat of arrest worked as Wesley's stalking finally stopped. I managed to settle all the issues, and as initially planned, Mom and Dad and I started living in the new house. My parents thanked me, saying, "We appreciate all you've done to let us live in the house, despite the troubles." Despite the divorce, the three of us can now live happily. I don't know what became of them, but just knowing that makes me feel content. From now on, I plan to lead a fulfilling life while taking care of my parents. A new life in a new home. It's been a challenging journey, but from here on, I hope for peaceful and calm days. I wonder if I've shown enough gratitude to my parents who raised me with so much love. From now on, I vow to be more devoted and make every day count.